Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Sunday edition here on KTN News. Many thanks for joining us. Let me now introduce my guest this morning. My panel, we have Mutinda Kavemba, Jubilee strategist. We have Vesbon Owila, political analyst, governance expert, Professor Eri Tumbo, and political risk analyst, Dismas Mokua. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on this show this morning. Right, let's get into it straight away. That is political pages. A very quick look at what's happening, what's making the headlines in the newspapers this Sunday morning. Let's start with the Sunday Nation, and this an analysis of the campaign machines of both sides of the political divide. The main sides, that is the National Super Alliance, the opposition, and the Jubilee Party. Inside Uhuru Raila campaign machines is the splash on Sunday Nation. They have tried to give some figureheads. Some of the guys who are heading these think tanks in terms of strategy and the mobilization of resources, naming on the Jubilee side Davis Chirchir, former energy PS, an IT guru on the Jubilee team, Winnie Guchu as well, the executive director of the campaign, key player in the outfit, Muhoho Kenyatta, in charge of resource mobilization for the campaign. On the NASA team, they've named David Ndii, of course, as many of you know, an economist who has been playing a key role in the happenings at NASA. The Brown Ondego, long-time ally of Mudavadi and Raila. I've heard of Tom Namwamba, the brother to Ababu Namwamba. And then Jimmy Wanjigi, businessman, apparently playing a role in mobilization of funds. Dismas, what is your take on these teams, on this story on the Sunday Nation?
You recall we said last time that if you are able to establish who is running a particular campaign, then you would have known who's going to win the election. All the names are mentioned there's nothing new. For instance, for the longest time we knew that Muhoho Kenyatta is behind his brother's campaign and is the one in charge of the back balance. So actually when you go through that entire story, really there's nothing new. There's nothing jaw-dropping. Apart from the fact that Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi, who is accredited for assisting President Kenyatta and his deputy last time secure a victory, now has gone to NASA. That's the only new thing in that kind of story. But again, it would be naive for you to expect that, say, Mr. Raphael Tuju can actually tell a journalist who is driving the campaign, who is playing what responsibility. If he does that, then that will be a big lapse in his judgment. And the same will happen for NASA. It's unlikely that the person who is chairing that team can actually go to the public domain and give out the names of the people who are driving the campaign and even give out their strategy. So this story really, if you go through it at the end of the story, you are likely to frustrate Ion. Nothing new. Nothing new. Prof, what is your take on this, some of these names?
I am not sure if they are the right names. They give a resemblance of attachment to particular political interests. For example, the list that you have got on the Jubilee side, to me, it is restating the obvious. The list that you have got in the NASA side is more or less also restating the obvious, because those people, other than Brown Ondego, have been out there. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I am not quite sure whether these are the people responsible for driving the software of the campaign.
All right.
The software of the campaign is about transformation or a change of a challenge into an opportunity and then striving to fulfill that opportunity. Two, if you look at the individuals critically,
right,
I know Davis Chirchir reasonably well. Other than ICT manipulation, all right? That's his...
manipulation?
Yes.
It's not a strong word.
No, he built his reputation. I know him from the days...
Of the IEC?
From the days he was in the university. From the days he worked for Telcom. From the days with Qatar, they were mounting a mast on Lonro House illegally, and they were collecting. I know him reasonably well. I can tell you that. Now, other than that, other than the capacity to play around with the IT systems,
right,
I do not know of his any other political skills. I have not found him.
Well, just to be clear, gentlemen, we're not exactly talking about, it's just the whole team, what we understand the men, the faces behind. And it doesn't have to be anything new or jaw-breaking. It's just analysis of these teams. And here is a more detailed list. Onasa, Jimmy Wanjigi, Willis Otieno, Brown Ondego, David Ndii, Walter Mbindio, Paul Mwangi, Kathleen Openda. In terms of Jubilee, the Solicitor General Nje Muturi, Interior PS Karanja Kibicho, this PS Joseph Njoroge, I think the PS for Energy, his boss Charles Keter. I don't know.
I think let me finish before you I know I can hear where you are coming from.
Right.
But the position is very simple. For me, there is a certain amount of newness in the NASA outfit that is listed, but there is almost nothing new in the Jubilee one.
Jubilee side.
Because don't forget, irrespective of what happens, the Jubilee side story is told, managed, and the narrative developed largely by Uhuru and Ruto. All these other people ni watu wa mkono. Whereas if you look at the NASA group, there are ideologues there, there are analysts there, and there are media people there. Now, for me, from the point of view of the teams, the NASA team looks more like a team, and the other one looks like a group of workers.
All right. Hesbon, who is getting it right from what we can see?
I think they're both getting it right, for the simple reason that if you look at the grand scheme of what they are doing, they're trying to create that impression that they have a well-oiled machine that is running their campaign. And the technocrats that they have behind the team, you can actually tell that Jubilee is trying to send a message that we have an IT expert, we have in Chirchir, we have, political campaign guru in Miss Gitau, and so on and so forth. So to the extent that they are creating that perception that this is not a President Uhuru, Deputy President William Ruto show, it is actually well run by a team, they're actually scoring the points that they need to score in their campaign. But just like Prof said, I think you look at the CORD team and you see new faces. And to some extent, to me, it is responding to what I've always said, that CORD has had a gap in their messaging. And the introduction of, Willis Otieno is refreshing because you look at why he's been brought into the team. It's to show up the campaign and do things in a very refreshing way, which to an extent I think we saw yesterday in Western Kenya.
All right. Mutinda, who is having the bigger guns? From where you sit?
First, I want to counter something that Prof said about that the NASA one is more of a team and the others are workers. The truth of the matter is that all these people are workers. They are working for two campaign teams, one led by Raila and Kalonzo, the other one led by Uhuru and Ruto. So for that, both of them are doing the same job. They are a support system for the campaign. And other than Willis, who has just replaced Eliud Owalo, I think these teams are almost as intact as they were. And notably also Jimmy Wanjigi, like my fellow panelists noted, has also shifted camps. But majorly, to a large extent, these are key political players that are known to associate with both teams. And, it's also good to understand that at that level of campaigns, there are things that matter. One of them is loyalty. And actually, when it gets to that point, you are told that at times loyalty might even be a bigger consideration than competence. At that level, you'd rather have a less competent and more loyal than a more competent and, because it's also at the very in the nucleus of strategy. So I think both teams are doing well and they've put the people they trust and believe they can move the agenda forward.
Yeah, you didn't say who was the bigger guns. You just criticized that there's nothing new.
Yeah, I'm going to say something and I'm going to mention the bigger gun.
Right.
When you look at the team, the Jubilee team, you can actually tell it's top heavy with the public servants because you've read out the name of Kibesho, you've read the name of Nje Muturi. So it seems to be the case that Jubilee is actually relying on the public service to deliver. And one would understand why you'd want to work with Mr. Kibesho, Dr. Kibesho, Regina Kibesho, that is in charge of internal security. So that's the kind of guy you want to be sure that you want to exploit the former provincial administration, which should attract the attention of IBC. That the state is using, or rather Jubilee is using state resources for their own campaign. And the person that you can never, ever underestimate his potential in this campaign is Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi, because he's credited as a person who went to President Kenyatta and the deputy president and said, I'm going to assist you deliver the presidency. And when you see him coming on board, you cannot take his presence for granted.
All right. All right, let's move away from that. Of course, we'll get into the NASA and Jubilee politics in a short while. Very quickly, on page 4 of the Daily Nation, not page 4, page 6 of the Daily Nation, Uhuru and Ruto convinced Governor, that is Kenneth Mbogwa of Nakuru, to step down and back Lee's bid. Did you expect that, Mutinda? I mean,
Yes,
he's a sitting governor. You know, he lost in the Jubilee nominations. He said he will go it alone. He has been facing a lot of hostility on the campaign trail, especially where the president is. Did you expect this?
Yes, I did. And probably we might be seeing more of that in the Jubilee areas where they are strong, because it's really not easy to campaign outside the mainstream when the president has already taken a stand. And I think the only thing that this gentleman wanted probably is, okay, fine, if I step down, what next? And that could only authoritatively be responded to by the president and deputy. And I believe he stepped down after the meeting that addressed those concerns. Because, you know, he's been a civil servant for long. He joined politics as a first-timer, won, but now he's lost. And clearly was also going to lose again. If his sources are reliable and honest with him, they must have also told him that he'll lose again. And I think what he's done is much better than if he had waited to lose in August, because there would have been no fallback plan in August. You know, because you would have said that, okay, let's do it up to the end. Then that would mean then you can't come back to us and make any demands. But as at now, he's secured something, I believe, and we will be seen going forward, which of course would be a public appointment and which is expected.
Right.
So I think he did the right thing, so that now in Nakuru County, it is clear that it is Jubilee versus NASA.
Hesbon, where did he lose the plot?
I think from the onset, I think he won the last general election and shocked many people. Because I think Lee Kinyanjui had this confidence that he's been in politics and he was going to win. And it was a big shocker to have somebody from the discipline force come and beat him. But I think the most important thing for Jubilee is that having anything that was going to threaten, you know, their smooth sail to the gubernatorial position in Nakuru was taking the risk too far. And it is important to note that I don't think Governor Kenneth Mbogwa was going to lose easily, like my friend is saying here, because he's a sitting governor. He enjoys, you know, the fact that he's an incumbent, and therefore he has the trappings of power, resources, and all that. And I think Jubilee, yes, he lost the nomination, just like so many other governors lost. But looking at the geopolitics of Nakuru and the strategic position that Nakuru is, you wouldn't want to risk, you know, the other population in Nakuru that probably are affiliated to NASA, ganging up, you know, and voting for NASA and having Kinuthia and Lee split the Jubilee vote. So Jubilee had to really act, and it's important that one of a key contender, you know, listen to the president and the deputy president, which is a key thing for Jubilee.
All right, Prof, the Kipsigis community in Nakuru, I understand, play kingmaker in that county, and Kenneth Mbogwa got a lot of votes from there in 2013. Where do you think he lost the plot?
Thank you very much. First, I want to comment on the decision by Kenyatta to have this discussion with Kenneth Mbogwa for purposes of consolidating the Jubilee support in Nakuru. That's practical politics. He just looked at it and said, if I leave it the way it is, I'm likely, you know, to suffer injury, because the Jubilee vote is likely to be fragmented between the two main candidates. Now, with regard to the issue, so in that one, if I was giving a mark, I would give Uhuru Kenyatta 7 and above. You know, he's done something politically practical and realistic. If you go to this issue of the Kipsigis community, you know, the Kipsigis community is not important, not just in Nakuru only, but is important component of the Kalenji, of the William Ruto support base.
Right.
Estimates put it at around 56% of the total Kalenjin vote. All right? Now, if you look at, although that sounds a bit exaggerated, if you look at it, their role in Nakuru has been that of producing a deputy governor. And a deputy governor who brings something to the gubernatorial seat, just like William Ruto brings to the Uhuru presidential bid. So it's extremely important to not to destabilize the Uhuru Kenyatta backing component of the alliance, and then leave the William Ruto supporting component out in the cold. Secondly, it's possible, I don't know the facts, it's possible that that Kalenjin community, all right, could have run to Isaac Ruto, all right,
Exactly.
if they felt that their interests are not accommodated in the new arrangements by Jubilee in Nakuru. So realistically, I believe that the president took consideration of this latter observation to further strengthen his hand in convincing Kinuthia
Mbogo to step down.
To step aside.
Let me pick it up from where Prof left it. Does this now maybe leave the, I think, close to 50,000 votes from Kuresoi that Governor Mbogo enjoyed in 2013 open for hunting by Isaac Ruto and the NASA team?
The reason, in my understanding, when you try to really go beyond the nose as to why President Kenyatta did this, is probability of NASA, actually CCM, Chama cha Mashinani, taking this seat was very high, was fast approaching one. Because Lee Kinyanjui is a strong candidate, so is Governor Mbugua. He's a very strong candidate. So if they split that vote immediately, then Chama cha Mashinani gets the position. And I think that's the only seat where the president is going to step in and try to negotiate. Because if you look, for instance, for the case of Kiambu, the president would have no interest in asking, say, Kavogo to step down in favor of Waititu. Because either way, whoever becomes governor in Kiambu would still be loyal to President Kenyatta. But in Nakuru, it was going to be an entirely different ballgame. And also, that's a clever attempt by the deputy president to stop the growing influence of Governor Isaac Ruto. Because when Governor Isaac Ruto joined NASA, he made some promises that he is going to work hard to deliver the Nakuru seat, to deliver Bomet seat, Kericho, and Narok. And he's taking advantage of that Kipsigis community, which he says has been marginalized in the bigger arrangements. Right. And you've been seeing his messages, you've been seeing Governor Ruto's messages the last couple of days. And when he speaks, you see him really attacking the deputy president. Like, for instance, the other day he said, when we elected Jubilee, we did not request them to give us cooking flour. Tunataka watuletee mahindi. Na hii mahindi tunataka kununua hapa kwa Gorogoro. That's the kind of impact that Governor Ruto is having in this campaign. So that move was really not necessitated by the need to maybe show up at the presidential votes for President Kenyatta, but an early attempt to try and minimize the influence of Governor Ruto. And I suspect today, Governor Ruto must go back to the drawing table and reconfigure his mathematics for that seat.
All right. Interesting points are there from Dismas. Let's now take a look at the last thing from the political pages this morning. That is a elusive, I don't know if that's the right word, Chapter 6 of the Constitution. A story on page 8 of the Daily Nation. Politicians on the EACC blacklist. They have been hitting out at the agency, the EACC, saying it is serving rivals' agenda. And there's a list here, a very long list with the charges by the EACC. Some of the names that have been put here include that of the Garissa Governor, Nadif Jama, Godana Doe, the Isiolo Governor, Alfred Mutua, the Machakos Governor, Wangi wa Eria, Muranga, gubernatorial candidate Hassan Nur Hassan, Mandera, Chris Obure, gubernatorial candidate for Kisii, Sospita, Senate, the Kisii Senator, Sospita Ojamong, Busia Governor, Evans Kidero, the Nairobi Governor, of course, Daniel Waithaka, Governor Nyandarua, Kano Rasanga, Siaya, Okoth. A lot of governors, Peter Munya, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, gubernatorial candidate, of course, Granton Samboja, gubernatorial candidate, Anne Waiguru, Gladys Bosolei, Uasin Gishu, woman rep candidate, Peter Kaluma, I think put here for for assault for fighting, Peter Shehe, Ganze, Alfred Keter, Nandi Hills for that Weybridge incident, Oscar Sudi, Kapseret MP, Lampurkel, Laikipia North Member of Parliament. There's a very long list here. Of course, Elizabeth Ongoro and Tom Kajwang accused of violence in Kasarani. Are we going to see anything happen to these gentlemen and ladies?
Actually, I'm one of the most disappointed people with what is happening. Because I remember one of our teachers used to say that you're busy doing nothing. That is what exactly EACC is doing. Because this is not what we hired them for.
Okay.
There is due process of law. Article 99 of the Constitution is very clear on what basis you can stop one from vying. And this is not how to go about it. It is about having gone through the due process of law, having been convicted for not less than 6 months, and having exhausted all appeal mechanisms. So why are they giving us premature cases that they know cannot withstand the test of stopping anybody from vying?
So these guys haven't done anything.
No, the thing is this.
worth-
The thing is this. They have not met the threshold of being stopped from vying. That is the point. And it is the EACC, the DPP, and the judiciary that need to tighten their bolts, do their work more effectively, so that we can end up having a person who clearly is disqualified as per Article 99. That is someone who's been convicted for more than 6 months and has exhausted all appeal mechanisms, because that is what the law says.
All right.
I actually tend to think that it is actually almost misleading, because most people are picking this as if it is the authority. Some people even have hope that on the basis of this list, some people might be stopped from vying. Far from it. It won't happen. And it is not right to give Kenyans false hope, so that Kenyans understand clearly where we are, and then we can now discuss then what do we need to do, instead of making it look like we have some room to stop these people that does not exist.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
According to the Daily Nation, 193 million is the amount Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero is accused of acquiring unlawfully. What do you think about this, Hezbollah?
Let me tell you, I think this is just a lot of noise about nothing, because the due process of the law is enshrined in Article 99 of the Constitution, and a clear reading of that gives you an understanding that the guys who are pushing for this are actually pitting the law against ethics. Yeah. And when the law is pitted against ethics, the law will always trump and ethics will suffer. And that's the case here, that there is no way you're going to stop these guys on things that have not been concluded in a case, in a court of law. And you cannot say that they need to stand on a moral ground based on what the public opinion thinks about them. Because it is about morality, and then morality cannot be measured. You cannot say that this person is a lot more moral than the other person. And if anything, if we were to stick to this thing, then I think we'd be having a longer list than this.
All right. Yeah. Very quickly, Prof.
EACC is defying the Constitution. That's what I want to put up. The reason being, the Constitution is very specific. Now, knowing what the Constitution requires, and they have gone ahead, in fact, they could be sued for slander. Yeah. This is political slander, considering that they have not made specific effort to push through the courts so that you can say, these ones we are processed.
Isn't this what they're supposed to do, and then now the DPP and the judiciary can pick it up from there?
This is a collaborative exercise. They are supposed to, for them, in my opinion, they lost the plot from the very beginning. Because in collaboration with the DPP and the courts, they should have initiated court proceedings, and you can say, these ones are complete, these ones are not complete. Right. Now, nothing is complete. So it's like, this is like rigging an exam, to say you have an answer when you have not, in fact, taken the exam.
All right.
So I strongly...
Yes, what are your thoughts?
If you needed a reason to disband EACC, here you have a good reason to disband EACC. Because how do they come after the train has left the station, and then they're sending a letter to IBC saying you shouldn't have cleared these people? And IBC made an announcement a long time ago that these are the candidates who have been cleared by political parties that are going to present our papers. So someone has already been cleared, and then you're running after IBC saying you shouldn't clear these people. And they know very well, as Kavemba has indicated, someone has to be in court. He has to have exhausted all appeal mechanisms. This organization, this giant called EACC, they should have picked even 3 cases, because they claim they don't have resources, of a governor. Because all the governors are listed there. They should have picked at least one governor and proactively pursue that case so that for this election, we have evidence that, in fact, EACC can stop even one public officer from running. They've given a very interesting example there. My MP from my village, Honorable Richard Onyonka, is being accused of having slapped his opponent. But yet, he's not been taken to court. He's not been charged in a court of law. And the question you posed to Professor Tumbo is very relevant. All those guys, do they have active files? Have they taken these files to Kiriako Tobiko? And is Kiriako Tobiko in the process of prosecution? And have these matters gone through the High Court, to the Court of Appeal, and have they gone to the Supreme Court? And has the Supreme Court rendered an opinion? And the last point goes back to our politicians. Chapter 6 was very solid on the integrity levels. But our members of the National Assembly, they bastardized that Chapter 6. They came up with the Leadership and Integrity Act, which lowers the bar. And in other serious jurisdictions, if you are a public servant or suspected of stealing, you don't need to go through the court proceedings. You just resign honorably. That's what happens in the United States. It happens in Britain. In Japan, they commit suicide. If you play around with the public assets, you commit suicide. In Japan. In South Korea, the entire world comes upside down. You recall what happened to the president. She's home, and she's not even gone through the entire appeal mechanisms. It's because the people have said, no, we suspect you're going to steal our resources. But for us, our politicians that we elect to the National Assembly every 5 years, they decided to lower the bar. And it's because of lowering the bar that we're able to get President Kenyatta and his deputy. Because they said we've been accused of some offenses, but we've not exhausted all mechanisms.
No, Ben, I wanted to say, is it a question of incompetence or is it a manipulation? Because
I also want to say something on that.
So there are many questions. That's one question. And then, like you say, Chapter 6 has been watered down. So is that really where the problem lies, maybe?
No, the problem lies in the ineffectiveness of the
EACC.
Constitution, not only EACC. Right. I want to be very fair to them. Because their work is investigation. Then they forward the file to the DPP. Then the DPP recommends whether to prosecute or not. I want to pick one case so that I build whatever I'm trying to say. The governor of Machakos. Investigations were done. 6 people were found to be culpable. Actually, 7 people, including him. 6 people went to court. He were taken to court on the same matter. Then he went to court to stop that. The DPP recommended that he be prosecuted. The High Court ruled, Lenaola was actually sitting on that. He ruled that there is no reason for the governor of Machakos not to be prosecuted alongside the other 6. He went to the Court of Appeal.
And blocked.
As we speak, a bench of Court of Appeal stopped the DPP from prosecuting. Yet the recommendation is very clear. And do you know what? The other 6 are already in court on the same matter. On the same charge. If you look at the details, then you wonder, honestly, how then are they in court and not? Yeah, so there are problems. So the thing is, we need to start finding a way of holding these institutions accountable. The Auditor General is doing his job. The Controller of Budget is doing his job. Their reports are every year in, year out, incriminating people, but business as usual, even after that. So we are asking, where is the EACC? Where is the DPP? Where is the police? Where is the judiciary? These are the 4 institutions that are failing Kenyans in a very bad way.
All right.
Yes.
Let's leave it there. Let's leave it there on the political pages. Many thanks for staying with us here on Sunday edition here on KTN News. When we return after this quick commercial break, we get into real politics, NASA versus Jubilee politics. Of course, what has been happening this weekend being a weekend, a lot of analysis, a lot of political activity across the country. Don't go too far.